Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. You are working hard tonight. Mr. Chairman, may I? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is HB 1579. Believe it or not, I actually spent a lot of time in my office meeting with VCDL and the NRA when it comes to gun safety issues. I look forward to those conversations, and when doing so, I always look for common ground. And believe it or not, I find it often, particularly on first principles, like people who have shown themselves to be irresponsible should not be allowed to carry or own guns. There seems to be wide agreement on that sort of fundamental point. And then, of course, I confess we often diverge from there. But when I looked at the VCDL talking points on this particular bill, Mr. Chair, they argue that misdemeanors should not strip a person of their right to purchase or transport a handgun. The problem is that almost 30 years ago, it was in 1995, this legislature unanimously concluded otherwise. 40-0 in the Senate, 100-0 in the House. The statute that I'm hoping to amend here this evening already, existing law, already renders someone who's committed 2 misdemeanor drug or marijuana crimes within a 3-year period, renders that person ineligible to purchase or transport a handgun for 5 years. If their record is clear for 5 more years, they can buy and carry a handgun. So all this bill does, Mr. Chair, is takes that principle, which this General Assembly has been, did 30 years ago and has not changed it since, and applies it to another group of people who have shown irresponsible behavior. People who've had 2 DUIs within a 5-year period would be treated just as 2 DUI misdemeanors would be treated just as other people who've had marijuana or low-level drug offenses. So I'm suggesting to you, members of the committee, that this is not a new concept. Now, you might ask, why DUIs? The research is very clear, members of the committee, that alcohol misuse is a predictor of gun violence. There are some experts in the room who I expect will know much more about this, but I just want to take a moment to give you a few statistics. 34% of firearm homicide perpetrators were actually intoxicated at the time of the event. 25.7% of firearm suicide victims were intoxicated at the time of the event. The body of research shows that alcohol misuse is absolutely a predictor of gun violence. A couple more, Mr. Chair. The average person who gets arrested for DUI has driven while intoxicated 80 times before his or her first arrest. There's a team of researchers that have done some research and found the following facts. Individuals with a prior alcohol-related conviction had 4.2 times higher risk for violent or gun-related crimes compared to those with no prior criminal history. They also found that alcohol misuse was a better predictor of future violence than other well-known risk factors for violence, including age, sex, or even a criminal history of violence. And finally, one more statistic, Mr. Chair. Among those with DUI convictions, 8.8% of them were subsequently arrested for violent crimes between 2001 and 2013, compared to 1.8% of individuals with no prior criminal history. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, all this bill does is recognize a second category of persons who have demonstrated by their conduct that they should have a pause in their ability to carry or own a handgun. Our laws recognize this for 30 years, all we're asking is for people to not show their propensity to drink, because that's directly related to a propensity to be irresponsible with firearms. If they can stop that for a while, they get their gun back after a period of time. So that's what the bill does, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody here to speak in support of the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Andrew Goddard, Virginia Centre for Public Safety.